last few weeks, and we've been learning all about what happened when Jesus had died and had risen from the dead, and he'd gone to be with God in heaven, and all of his followers are going out and talking to people about Jesus. And this morning we're going to meet 4 different groups of people who met people who knew Jesus and their lives were changed forever. Now, I tried to find a video to show you, to tell you the story, but all the ones on the internet were rubbish. So, we're going to act the story out ourselves. And so our first challenge in a minute is you're going to need to make some puppets. So in a minute, you're going to make some puppets of the people in our story. But if you're going to be able to do that, you need to listen really carefully to who all the people are and see if you can make a puppet less scary than mine was really scary. So, the first person we're going to meet in our story is a man called Peter. Now, not our Peter, a different Peter. Now, Peter was Jesus' friend. When Jesus was here on earth, Peter went round and he saw the different things that Jesus had done. And we call him one of Jesus' disciples. Now, once Jesus had died, Peter was going out and he was going around and telling people all about his friend Jesus. And he's going to meet some of the other characters in our story. So, have you got it remembered? One of the puppets you need to make is Peter, okay? So, Peter, that's the first one. The next chap we're going to meet is a man called Aeneas. Now, Aeneas was a chap who was very poorly. So, he couldn't walk. He was paralysed. And he'd been laid in bed for 8 years. Now, is anybody here 8? Got any 8? George is 8. Okay, so from the moment George was born to right now, you've been laid in bed. Who would like to do that? Roy and Seth. I don't think he would. I think even Roy would get bored of being in bed for 8 years. I think some of us probably struggle to stay in bed for 8 hours, didn't we? And so Aeneas, he was really poorly. He couldn't get up, and that meant that he couldn't earn any money. He couldn't go and make any food, and he would have been really sad. So that's Aeneas, and I need to remember him as well because I need you to make a puppet of Aeneas, okay? So who have we got? We've got Peter and we've got Aeneas. Now this is our third person. Now this is a lady who's got 2 names, so she must be super cool because she's got like a nickname. She is a lady called Tabitha or Dorcas. Now she was a Christian, and the Bible tells us she was always doing good. She was always loving people. She was always serving poor people. Now she was really cool because the thing that she liked to do was make clothes for people. Now that's obviously the coolest hobby ever. So she used to like to go out and she made clothes for people who couldn't make their own clothes. So she's the third person we're going to make a puppet of. So we've got Peter, who was Jesus' friend. We've got Aeneas, who was laid up in bed for 8 years. And we've got Dorcas, who likes to go around and make clothes for people. Now, there's one more group of people that we're not going to make a puppet of because we don't have time, but that was a crowd. So, some of you will be doing some colouring in when you came in. You've got a picture of a crowd. So, wherever Jesus' disciples are, people thought, what's going on here? So they came to see what was going on. Now, we're going to find out that meeting Jesus' disciples and seeing what God was doing changed all of those people's lives forever. But before I'm going to tell you the story, I need you to make your puppet so that you can act it out in a minute. So, in those bags on your table, you will find 3 wooden spoons. You will find some bits of material, you'll find some googly eyes, you'll find some pipe cleaners, some string. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. There's like a twisty bit on that. To try and make your puppet. So decide amongst yourselves who's going to make which puppet. Looks like you guys are doing a good job. These are looking very good from here. I'm impressed. Very creative. I like the legs. Oh, that looks fab, Jessica. Oh, Jim's doing one too. Very good, Jim. I like it. Okie dokie. Now, if you need to finish them off, you'll have a little bit of time to finish them off later, but let's find out what happens to our characters. Now, before we find out what happens to our characters, we're going to listen to a song together. Now, we can't sing together, but we can do really big actions. So, if you all get on your feet, you can take your spoons with you if you want to. I want you to see the biggest actions ever, okay? Okay, are you ready?
Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. He's higher than the skyscraper, and He's deeper than the submarine. He's wider than the universe, and beyond my wildest dreams. And He's known me, and He's loved me since before the world began. Now I'm Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands. He's higher than the skyscraper, and deeper than the submarine. He's wider than the universe, and beyond my wildest dreams. And He's known me, and He's loved me since before the world began. Now I'm Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hands.
Hooray! Well done, everybody. Do grab a seat. Now, this is the moment where I need you guys to listen really well. Because what's going to happen now is I'm going to tell you what happened to your characters. So have a little think about which character you've got. Because then once I've read it to you, I'm going to ask you to act out the story with your wooden spoons and your families, okay? So is everybody listening really well? Yeah? Okay, so listen up to what happened to our characters. So as Peter travelled around the country, he went to visit the Lord's people who lived in Lydda. So Peter's travelling around, he's going to meet some of God's people. And there he found a man called Aeneas, who was paralysed and had been bedridden for 8 years. So poor Aeneas had been in bed for 8 years. But listen to what happens next. Aeneas, Peter said to him, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and roll up your mat. So immediately Aeneas got up. All of those who lived in Lydda and Sharon saw him and turned to the Lord. So Peter goes and he sees Aeneas and he says, get up. And this man who hadn't got out of bed for 8 years gets up. Now, in Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name was Dorcas. So we've got some Dorcases somewhere, haven't we? That's it, we've got her there. She was always good and helping the poor, so she's going around meeting people. But about that time, she became sick and she died. And her body was washed and it was put in an upstairs room. Lydda was near Joppa, so when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men and urged him, please come at once. So Dorcas got sick and she died. Peter sent them all out of the room. He got on his knees and he prayed. And turning towards the dead woman, he said, "Tabitha, get up." And she opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and he helped her to her feet. And then he called for all the believers, especially the widows, and presented them to her alive. So they all came in and they saw their friend and she was alive. This became known all over Joppa, all over her town, and many people believed in the Lord. And Peter stayed in Joppa for some time with a tanner named Simon. So that's our story. Now, in case you didn't listen to every little detail on your table, you've got the passage printed out for you. So I'm going to give you, what time are we on? I'm going to give you 8 minutes. And you and your families are going to act out the story. Now, if you wanted to, you could ask one of the grown-ups to video your spoons acting out the story so you can remember it later. You can make a little video. Or you can just act it out between yourselves and tell each other the story, okay? So I'm going to give you 8 minutes to do that for us. Go. So you've got your story there, if you're grown up, you need to read it out again. You can always use your leftover material to make some clothes. raised Dorcas from the dead, he healed Aeneas. He even showed people how amazing he was so that all the crowd came to trust him. So even though Peter, we know from the rest of the Bible, actually Peter wasn't that great, he wasn't that special, but God was amazing and he was at work in his life. So that's Peter. Now let's put our Peters down. Who's got Aeneas? Who's got our Landry laid in bed? Fab! These are great. Oh, well done. Lovely work there, Roy. Oh, look at these. These will look very sad on Aeneas. But see, Aeneas, his life would have been completely different, wouldn't it? Because he went from being in bed for 8 years, in bed for as long as George has been alive, to being up and about. You know, what do you think he would have done? Do you think he would have done some running, some jumping? Do you think he would have gone exploring, gone to see his friends? He would have had a whole new life. And he knew that that was because Jesus had healed him. Now, our other lady is Dorcas. Who's got Dorcas? I've got Dorcas. She's great. Now, Dorcas, she spent her life, before she died, she went round, she was helping the poor, she was one of God's people, and she knew that being one of God's people meant loving other people. But then she died. But instead of saying that, she was raised from the dead. So she had a whole new life, didn't she? So you see, Jesus, God did amazing things for all of our parents. All our spoon people met Jesus and knew that something amazing would happen. But there is one group of people who we didn't make any spoon carrots as well. So who's got the crowd? Can you put, oh, these guys. So we've got some pictures of the crowd. Now do you notice in our story, it says that the people who saw what had happened to Aeneas and to Dorcas, they turned and trusted in God. Now that meant something even more amazing than what had happened to Aeneas and what had happened to Dorcas. You see, Aeneas, he could walk, but one day he would get sick again. And Dorcas, she didn't live forever. One day Dorcas would die again. But the people who saw who God was and turned to him and trusted him, well, they were rescued forever. So they can go to be with Jesus. So you see, we know that all the characters in that story, God rescued them, didn't he? He rescued Aeneas from being sick, he rescued Dorcas when she died, and he rescued the whole crowd because they came to trust him. And that means for us that when we trust Jesus, we can know that he rescues us as well, just like he rescued the people in our passage. So, we're going to, as we finish up, we're going to sing a song that reminds us of that. Now again, we can't sing, but we can do really big actions. Now, you guys did great big actions last time, so let's get on the feet, and we're going to do big actions reminding us that Jesus rescues us.
These are the Verbo holiday homes waiting for you to fill with your family.
So
like you say for Neas and Dorcas and the people in our passage, that you rescue us.